Hey guys, this is Trev. Before we jump into this episode this week, I have a quick announcement, something cool to share from the guys over at Rapid Reels. So until Thanksgiving only of this year, 2016, that's just a couple weeks away at this point, all current Inside Acting members can get a really sweet discount on all the services offered by the guys over at Rapid Reels. You know these guys, or at least you should. We talk about them a lot on the show. We've had both Miguel and Michael on the show, who are sort of the head honchos there. And the work that they do is really, really top notch. They're a full service content creation company, and they offer everything from headshots to demo reels to editing. But what they specialize in is in creating scenes catered to actors' strengths, their marketability, their essence. These are handcrafted scenes that they put together for actors, for their demo reels, for various marketing purposes. So if you've been looking to get some really great new content and experience under your belt, this is a really great opportunity to do it with a team of consummate professionals at a really nice discount. So to get that discount, first off, check out their work at rapidreels.com. That's Reels with a Z, REELZ.com. And if you're a member of Inside Acting, log into the membership and then look under the General Forum tab for the post with details about the discount and how to basically apply for it and let them know what you're looking for and all that fun stuff. All the instructions are inside the membership, so check it out. It's under the General Forum. Quick disclaimer, we do not get any compensation or kickback of any kind for this. We're just sharing this with the satisfaction of knowing that we're paying it forward, making connections, and seeing more awesome creative people have success. So again, this is only good through Thanksgiving, so if you've been waiting for a sign to act, consider this that sign. Log into the membership, check out the details for that discount, and hope we have people take advantage of it. All right, here's this week's episode.
Even when we're taking on new habits or doing self-development and growing and like moving past our challenges, the key is that it's not like we're actually finding anything new. We're actually just uncovering who we've been the whole time.
You're listening to Inside Acting, a podcast dedicated to demystifying the inner and outer game of success in the entertainment industry. I'm Trevor Algott.
And I'm AJ Meyer. And in episode 257, the third and final part of Trev's conversation with eating psychology coach, wellness advocate, and spoken word poet Tessie Tracy. In part 3, Tessie shares her final 3 principles of self-love, what VACT stands for. Am I saying that right? VACT stands for.
Yeah.
And how and why standing powerfully in your unique authenticity, sex appeal, and infinitely castable self amidst constant pressure from an industry that quite often hires actors based on looks first is an inside job. I love that. That and much more coming up at 257. Stay with us.
Support for this episode of Inside Acting comes from Rehearsal Pro, the next version of Rehearsal, the essential app for actors that is now available for your using pleasure in the iTunes App Store. You guys know the drill. If you want to learn your lines, if you want to be off book for your auditions, if you want to explore your character, make stronger choices, and do a bunch of other things, this is the answer. Go to rehearsal.pro/IAP right now to learn all about this kick-ass app that is in use by celebrities all across the industry, and get your hands on a new version of Rehearsal. This is a groundbreaking app designed to get you off book and confidently kicking ass in the room, taking names, making relationships, building a really solid body professional work, all from the comfort of your iOS device. So check it out. That is rehearsal.pro/IAP.
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
Hey, man. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm personally still grieving. I am envious of people who have been able to move on so quickly. I am personally still grieving and very, very concerned and frankly frightened for the future.
Yeah, so for listeners who just might be under a rock somewhere, we are, of course, talking about the president-elect of the United States, Mr. Donald J. Trump. Somehow that happened, and I thought Michael Moore's post on Facebook, I'm sure you've seen this, AJ, I thought it was a really poignant post, his very first post the day after, and it was like a 5-step plan for basically getting, moving past this and essentially getting Donald Trump sort of out, away from the White House and moving on to whomever might be next. And one of the points said, if you are on social media saying, basically voicing your disbelief and your surprise, the basic advice was like, don't act like this is a surprise. Instead, acknowledge that you've been living in a bubble and weren't present to the desperate situation that many of your fellow Americans have found themselves in, such that they voted this way. So, I was just as surprised and sort of terrified as everybody else. But then when I read that, I was like, yeah, you know what? I've been in a bubble, man. Like, clearly, there's a huge chunk of our population that is like, we can't take it anymore the way it's been. And, I haven't had any problems, but then again, I'm a very specific demographic, and there's a lot of issues that are completely invisible to me on my day-to-day experience that a lot of other people are feeling. So there's that to take into account.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I'd say, thank you for sharing that. I think it's important, and I also agree with you. Like, I have a whole new appreciation for the bubble because I knew that it existed, but this has been probably the biggest disparity between the two things. So that's number one. I like I said, I appreciate you saying that. The thing is I never thought it would be possible for those sane people to overlook everything that he has said and done. It's like flabbergasting to me. I just posted this photo, some tweet or something. I don't know what I don't know who the quote could be attributed to, but it says, "We can disagree and still love each other unless your disagreement is rooted in my oppression and denial of my humanity and right to exist." And I take real issue with us being complicit in the level of hate and the rhetoric and the oppression of people who, don't necessarily have a voice. I mean, since 2013, there have been moves in the Supreme Court and gerrymandering of districts and stuff to close down. There was 850 fewer polling places in the 2016 election than there was in the 2012 election. 850, and most of those were in areas of where minorities and lower income people live. I'm not saying they couldn't have, gone out of their way to go to a polling place that's further away, but it just goes to show, like, I'm having a hard time with the people who are saying we need to listen to these people when it comes to the hateful rhetoric. We can listen to people who feel disenfranchised, who feel like they have low-income jobs or no jobs at all, who, like, the economy aspect of his campaign spoke to. Those are like legitimate concerns, and they had to overlook some really disgusting things in order to still vote for him. What I will not do, what I refuse to do, is to sit back and say, well, some people do believe that all Muslims are terrorists and all Mexicans are rapists, so I should try to understand that. That would be like saying we should try to understand people who believe that black people should still be slaves. It's not okay. And there has to be a line. And that's what I've been struggling with. And no one wants to answer for it. I've noticed every person that I've tried to have a conversation with about their choice to vote for him, I ask them to answer for that, to answer for the fact that they voted for somebody who had this type of rhetoric. And every single time, the only response they have is Hillary was worse. Hillary was worse.
How is this going to factor into your journey as a creative being?
I've been thinking a lot about that. I really appreciate that question. I don't have an answer yet. My poor girlfriend, if she's listening, Jasmine has been doing her best to support me in finding better outlets. You know, the rage is slowly dissipating, but you know, every time we have that conversation, I have up until this point said, I don't know. I don't know what I am supposed to do. I'm getting involved. There's a lot of interesting, Facebook groups popping up, people who are, creating safe spaces for people who are creating, grassroots movements, things like that. So I'm getting involved little by little politically in the ways that I can. And like you said, the Michael Moore posts have been awesome because they are very specific. They're very like, here's something you can do, here's something you can do, here's something you can do. And, we had that conversation, a month or so ago about voting with your wallet. And, one of the things we can start doing is donating to Planned Parenthood, donating to the ACLU, donating to these groups that are going to fight for human rights when they are threatened over the course of the next 4 years. But as far as my art goes, I don't know, man. I've given it some thought. I've given it a lot of thought, and I don't have any specifics yet. I know I want to do something. I went to an acting class this week, and that was awesome, or a workshop this week, and it was just nice to be. That was just more about the distraction. I feel kind of beaten down right now, and that's not helping with the creativity thing. If that makes sense.
What would you say to our listeners who are pro-Trump?
I have so many questions. I would say, my main question would be sort of what I said before, which was I would really love more than anything for you to acknowledge the rhetoric and take responsibility for it. It really can be that simple. I have yet to have somebody take responsibility for it. People do one of two things. They either say Hillary's worse, or they say, don't worry, he won't do he won't do all the things he says. And that's grossly inadequate as far as I'm concerned for taking responsibility for the candidate that you voted for. That's my one request right now. I have yet to have that happen. And I think it's really telling. I mean, I'm talking friends, family. I have like most of my family voted for him, and not one of them has said anything remotely like, yeah, you know what? He's an awful person. He said some really awful things, and he's inspiring some awful things. And it was a horrible, gut-wrenching decision for me, but I voted for him because X, Y, and Z. No one will say that. No one will take responsibility. At least they haven't yet. So if you're willing to do it, reach out, please. Email me, email the podcast, tweet at the pod, like get in touch direct. I mean, whatever, because I want to have a conversation with somebody who not only has intelligently thought through their choice, but who is willing to be responsible about it.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that we took some time to sort of air this on the show. I know it's an issue, obviously, that's hot on a lot of people's skin this week. So would love to hear your thoughts, everybody listening, as to how this, like I asked AJ earlier, how this factors into your journey as a creative person. Does this change your mission in any way, or intensify it, or take the wind out of your sails? I would really love to hear how people as creative beings who are, like you just said, AJ, tend to be a little bit more sensitive, how they're processing this and how this impacts their art making, their journey of moving through the world as somebody who is perhaps more in tune with the spiritual journey of a collective consciousness than maybe other industries. So on that note, let's move on to part 3 of my chat with Tessie Tracy. I hope you guys have really been enjoying parts 1 and 2. Tessie obviously is a pretty stupendous person on a lot of different levels, as an artist, as a person who's really in touch with fitness and nutrition and the psychology around all of that, which is something that really is the core issue. I've said for a long time that fitness and nutrition is not a physical game. It's very much a mental game, very, very much all in your head. So that's really what Tessie's work is all about, and I'm excited to bring you the third and final part today. So enjoy this, guys, and we'll catch you on the other side. Like you said earlier, there's so many diets out there. There's paleo, and there's Atkins, and there's vegan and vegetarian, and there's dairy free, and there's fruitarian, and there's raw till 4. And, it's kind of like, wow, like where does this fit, when it comes to bio-individuality? And I think that that's often overlooked, the idea that different people and different bodies respond differently to different things. And what's interesting to me is I wonder, and I'm curious for your take on this, is there, in your experience and estimation, an optimal human diet, generally speaking, the same way that, like we feed our cats and dogs specific foods because that's what their bodies are engineered to sort of thrive on? Orangutans eat a certain kind of diet, elephants eat a certain kind of diet. Why do we have this idea that humans are the exception to the rule? Is there not an optimal sort of guideline diet for human beings?
There is. This is an amazing question, and I could have a lot to say about it.
I have a ton to say about it too, but I'm always so curious to hear, like when you said, like people can go to the doctor and they can have a diet that's heavy on fried chicken and still turn up good blood work. And to me, that seems plausible and completely likely, but at the same time, is it healthy? I mean, the numbers show that it is, but how is this possible when if you did that with any other animal, it would probably result in something pretty predictable? Yeah.
So, yep. And a couple of things also that came up for me again that were from my mentor and teacher, Mark David, is he always says, we say in at the Institute for the Psychology of Eating, we call ourselves diet agnostic, meaning there is a way to kind of, through sometimes experimentation, find how your body is going to respond to different foods and how you're going to feel best. So if there's one thing we could change in the whole world, it would be food quality. So the fried chicken thing, like you said, yes, someone can probably eat like that, for years and have healthy, blood levels and all that good stuff. And at the same time, are they possibly more at risk of certain diseases? You know, if they're eating the chicken that also has the hormones and the GMO and the steroids, all that stuff, that more and more research is coming out that that doesn't lie. Like, that can cause cancer and cause disease. So that being said, yes, if that is the case, it's going to catch up to them. And similar things, there are people that eat as vegans or vegetarians and their body's like, sweet, I'm good with this for, up to like 10 years. And then all of a sudden they'll start losing hair and their skin will get brittle, and they kind of have, a choice to make. And sometimes it is that, it is an ethical reason or a value reason. Like, I'm not going to eat animals and for, sustainability purposes or whatever. And then it's in a weird way, it's like a choosing point. You could actually give up some of your own health if your body's not getting the exact nutrients it needs. But even if, that whatever you're eating, there is truth to, okay, as organic as you can, as, sustainable and environmentally responsible as you can. I personally am a big believer in that. And I think that a lot of what's thrown at us, not only from like the food industry, but from the diet industry, is not necessarily sustainable and not in our best interest.
What do you mean by that?
So from the from the diet industry, I say not in our best interest, meaning like a lot of, quote unquote diet books become popular, like, oh, every single human should eat this way and you'll, lose this much weight or feel this great, all that good stuff. When in reality, there's just no one diet. There might be that one diet that works for someone for that season of their life, and it does support them for like a year. And then our bodies change. Their body might need different nutrients in a year. So that's kind of what I mean, like, without our best interest. The diet industry is like a $67 billion industry. So it's a little bit designed for us to actually see short-term results and then need to come back for more.
Yeah. And it's designed to just continually sell us things when oftentimes maybe what we need is to eat less.
Yeah.
Or, we need something like more broccoli, which is not, historically speaking, a real moneymaker in the food industry.
Yeah.
So we're sold some other thing that's supposed to have all the benefits of broccoli, but we're not told that. We're just told it's this new healthy solution. Yeah.
And it's like, the more we're getting away from, just whole real food, there's no long-term studies on what that's doing to us, or is it even, we can eat even like a protein bar that has maybe all natural ingredients, but if we're eating just that for all our meals, our body's probably going to get to a point where it's not really recognizing it as food.
Yeah.
Because and so the other thing I was going to say is regarding like the food industry, which there's a bunch of studies on this as well, is, potato chip companies will actually do studies to measure like the crunch decibel that we hear in our ear when we're crunching chips that like provides the most pleasure or satisfaction. And they'll like gauge their chips with, probably not the best ingredients for us to be addictive in that way.
Oh my God. I completely believe that, because one of my favorite snacks in the world is Sun Chips. And one of my favorite like experiences of those is the crunch. It's the perfect crunch.
Yep.
And every time I do it, I'm like, I want more of that. And I'll sometimes eat, this is awful, but I'll eat like a whole bag in one sitting because I can't stop. I'm just like, this is so pleasurable.
Yeah. Well, you can blame it on the scientists because they probably hired people to make it that pleasurable.
They got that shit figured out, man.
Yeah. So there are those things that are kind of, guiding us away from whole foods.
Yeah.
This
is fascinating. And there's so many roads we could go down here, between like the salt, the sugar, and the fat and all these other things. But I want to be sure that we get back to the I guess I've just started calling them the 7 R's. I don't know if you have a different name for them. You do? What do you call, how should I refer
Well, I
to
call the 7-step process to eating into it.
Okay, cool. So we left off. Sorry about that. I totally like stole the list and made it my own. We left off with redefine, which was defining your own health as opposed to letting others define it for you. And then the next option is reacquaint.
Reacquaint. So in this step, it's all about self-love. And I say reacquaint because it's also about thinking back to a time when you did feel great in your body. Like maybe it was when you were a kid and you didn't care what you looked like. You just wanted to go play and, you wanted to have a snack after you played and just bringing back that and looking at, okay, how do I reacquaint with that inner child? How do I reacquaint with that best feeling of myself? What practices now can I incorporate to bring that to life? And this is also about in the reacquaint process, I give people a self-affirmation. So they'll have something to say in the mirror every day. If their issue is the negative body image, they get up in the morning and say to the mirror, I am a beautiful, gorgeous, glowing goddess, or, whatever those words are to them that are going to, even if when they first make up the affirmation, they're like, yeah, I wish I believed that. It's perfect. Then choose that word. Whatever the word is that you desire to step into and believe, choose that word and that's your practice.
Wow. That sounds like a tough one to tackle. That's right at the heart of the issue.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's about, so there's a book called You Had It All the Time. Okay. So it's basically the gist and punchline of the book is that even when we're taking on new habits or doing self-development and growing and moving past our challenges, the key is that it's not like we're actually finding anything new. We're actually just uncovering who we've been the whole time.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because that really is what happens in life, is that we're born a certain way and we learn things. But I had a professor in college who always told me that everything you need to know to be a brilliant, life-changing actor, world-changing actor, everything you learn by the age of 6. And everything after that is basically scar tissue and crap that you need to peel away. And
wow.
I never forgot that. And I think he's right. I really do think that, our brains, more or less, neurologically speaking, finish sort of forming by age 6. And from then they sort of grow into what the structures that have formed at that point. That's why those first 6 years are so essential. And you see all these campaigns for parents to read to their children for the first 5 years and all that stuff. But I do believe that most of our life's work is done is spent undoing all the stuff that's been done since age 6. And getting back to that place of innocence and playfulness and curiosity and lack of stories is really where the magic is.
Yeah. Yeah. And getting back to that, I think provides a lot of a true sense of freedom where we really are able to let go of the small things, if you will.
Yeah. Let's talk about relationship, because this is a big one. I know that many times I've been derailed by seemingly innocent comments or even seemingly supportive comments from friends and family that I interpreted a different way. And so the sort of subheading to this one is navigating your primary relationships in life. How does relationship fit into all this?
Yeah. So, and I put this in here for that very important reason, because it's kind of you might think, well, what does, my relationship with food and body have to do with my personal relationships? And a lot. Navigating our primary relationships in life, what that means is just think of, who are the 1, 2, 3, 4 people that you have constant communication with. Maybe it's an intimate partner, maybe it's your boss, maybe it's a best friend, maybe it's a relative, a mom, a dad, whatever that looks like. So looking into that relationship, I have people kind of look at it on a scale and be like, just looking at this relationship, your gut feeling, do you feel like it's a loving relationship or toxic? Like if you had to tip the scale one way or the other, like how's that relationship going? Because I think anyone who's ever been in a relationship, which is all of us, because we have relationships with everybody, there's stress involved. And sometimes that stress, that's the reason why we go home and then we need to like emotionally eat, or maybe we lose someone and in stress we stop eating and taking care of ourselves. So there's a very intricate web to how relationship is integrated with our relationship to food and body, and with how the rest of our health is basically playing out. So a typical kind of guidance that I give people, because I do believe in relationship, what I think is tough. So I'm in an intimate relationship right now where we live together, and I've never lived with anyone, and I've gotten this amazing experience over the past year now of what it looks like to have ups and downs in a relationship, have moments where we disagree, and your adrenaline goes off and you're just heated and you start sweating and you just want to leave and cry and like not talk anymore. And then it's like you get to the point where you're like, there was no out. Like the commitment was, I just want everything to be okay because I love this person. And then getting to the other side, to the point where like, I'm still think it's crazy. It's like, I don't even remember, not that I don't remember what we were fighting about, but it's like, this feeling so much better. Like we've made up now and everything's okay. But it comes with personal responsibility, right? So I am choosing how I'm reacting. Like, for instance, there are people sticking with like the body image thing. So there's a woman in the body image documentary Embrace, and she has a beard. It's a woman, something happened with like her hormones. She grew a beard and she shaved it forever because she's like a feminine girl. And, she was embarrassed and she was shamed. And then she just let it grow. And she still dresses feminine. She is, female. She is like rocks her full facial beard. And in the documentary, she said, I feel beautiful. Like I've gotten to a point where I love myself. I like my beard. I think it's cool. And people come up to me and sometimes they're very, very like forward and they say, oh, she man. And they ask me questions about it or whatever. And what was so inspiring to see her talk is that she was just so authentically in a place where she was able to choose how she reacted, where she didn't let anyone's hate or judgment basically take her over. So in relationship, the more we can be, I call it VACT, VACT, the more we can step into vulnerability, authenticity, connection, and trust, the more we will be happier in relationships. And when we're happy in relationships, the food and body challenges start to transform themselves as well.
Wow. That's powerful. That was VACT, vulnerability, authenticity. What was the third one?
Connection and trust. Connection.
So with those four elements in place in your relationships, you can really kind of conquer anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's powerful. And not just, I would say, not just personal relationships, but professional relationships as well.
That's a great point, because in professional relationships, sometimes we're told like, oh, well, you shouldn't say certain things. So, because the vulnerability is, having that bravery to go talk to your boss and say, hey, I'm feeling this way. Like, you gave me this task to do and I'm not feeling that comfortable with it. But I wanted to just share how I'm feeling and, come to you, see how we can work this out. Like that's vulnerable. That's kind of opening up your chest, and instead of, what we're I think sometimes told to do, which is like, figure it out, pretend like everything's okay. Don't come across as like weak.
Yeah. 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 And there's a great book called Never Eat Alone that we talk a lot on this show about. And I remember the first part of that book, he's asked by a bunch of college students. They say, what's your secret? You have this huge Rolodex. There's like all these celebrities and, major influencers that you could call up at any moment and get a favor from. Like, what's your secret to meeting and building relationships with these people? And he said, in a word, generosity. And he went on to sort of explain that it's all about sort of becoming human to these people and finding ways to serve them. And I think a big part of that is just sharing the wholeness of who you are and saying like, look, just like you, like we may both be in business suits right now. We may have contracts in front of us and have secretaries and things that we deal with. There may be all the trappings of a professional, quote unquote professional relationship. But just like you, I have a favorite food. I have recurring dreams. I'm terrified of putting my face underwater, like little things like that all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, all this other stuff that we put on as humans in our society is such bullshit. When it comes down to it, it's all about being with another person and vulnerability is the way there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's, that connection with others that it's again, if, how we're designed, like even so many groups now, it's like they're calling themselves a community or a tribe, join my tribe. And I love that because like we're tribal as humans.
Yeah.
We love to experience food. And honestly, food, even if I'm sitting down, enjoying my food, having pleasure with every bite, that whole thing, you know what? It's going to be amped up times 100 when I do it with another person.
Yeah. Well, hence the title of that book, Never Eat Alone. Yeah. So the last piece of the puzzle here, it kind of sums it all up. And this is, I think, really, really important. Rhythm.
Rhythm is first about cycling through any of these principles as we evolve, as we move to, because life is that teeter-totter, sometimes different priorities are in the forefront. If we, say we do have a certain condition where we actually we need to, for our health, have more of a therapeutic diet and actually be really specific with what we're eating. That's a different rhythm and season. And there might be times where, you feel yourself getting away from that inner child, from that playfulness, from that relaxed, self-nourished person. So you step back into reacquainting. So that's the first point of rhythm. Rhythm also has to do with what we can mechanically do around food. So it has to do with meal timing. We have what's called like a biocircadian rhythm. So it's similar to like our circadian rhythm, like our sleep-wake cycle, but has to do with our metabolism. So in general, and again, we do have, a little bit of individual fluctuation with this, but in general, our metabolism will spike from 12 to 1:30 in the daytime when the sun is the highest in the sky. So that's a great time to eat our biggest meal. Because it's when our body's like raring to go and ready to digest and metabolize. And then that metabolism starts waking up in the morning and then it slows down at night. So that's one reason why like sumo wrestlers, they would literally wake themselves up in the middle of the night to eat a bunch of food so that they will gain weight and keep it on because your metabolism is so slow at night.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the last thing along with rhythm is also balancing our macronutrient balance. So while I don't really believe in counting calories necessarily, I do believe in macronutrient balance, which is the balance of, healthy carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Mm-hmm. And you can like Google, how to calculate my macronutrients and get a pretty good idea of how you can be eating to get all of those balanced for you.
Yeah. Wow. This really gets into the nitty gritty of it. And that's what I love about it because there's, like I said earlier, and like you mentioned, there are so many different diets out there and they all not all, but most of them tend to sort of offer contradictory advice. Like I've been sort of researching this book idea, and I just kind of want to lay down some sort of thoughts about food. That's actually the working title for it, Thoughts About Food. And as I'm doing research for this and going through these different books, I'm finding books that are just like so unbelievably out of touch with each other. Like you literally 100% opposite advice in, you know, from book to book. Like one book is like the most healthy societies throughout history had diets that were heavy in, you know, beans and legumes. Then I got another book that says, if you eat these, you will give yourself cancer. And I'm like, you have all this anecdotal evidence from like thousands of years of, you know, study. And then you have this new book, which just says, don't do it because it creates an acidic, you know, state in the body. And so it's like, what do we do with that information? So I like that it comes down that so much of your work comes down to relationship with food, relationship with self, the stories we have, and then really just detoxifying and teasing out a lot of what clumps together to create these sort of knotted energy areas in our bodies and our relationship with, again, the most intimate thing we do every day, which is eat, and just sort of encourages people to find out what works for them. You know, like Whole 30 is great. I love Whole 30. I'm all about, you know, whole foods that are plant-based. I'm personally a vegan. I feel really strongly about that, but I get that it's not for everybody, and I get that different bodies you know, respond differently. So it's about finding what is the best balance, not only biologically, but also psychologically, spiritually for a person.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
This is powerful. Tessie, I hate to kind of cut this short because there's a lot that I still want to talk about, but we're kind of out of time. But I want to end with this. The idea that what we just talked about for like the past hour and 15 minutes was very academic. We're using one side of our brain, and I think part of what we do as artistic, creative people is we provide a service to the world where we take things that are typically processed with one side of the brain and we translate them into something that the other side of the brain can understand. And what I so admire about you is your ability to do this with spoken word poetry. And a lot of your poems, in fact, all of your poems that I've heard, serve a purpose that is inspiring, empowering, and really serves to kind of connect people with important, you know, messages to really hold themselves high. So I'd like to ask you to share one of your spoken word poems with us right now. Are you up for that?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I'm just going to hand the mic to you then.
So I actually wrote, it's short, but I wrote a little piece specifically for Inside Acting.
Oh, wow. I'm so touched by that.
So here we go. Inside Acting, it's more than matter of facting. In fact, Trev and AJ, so in harmony, you kind of make the facts sing. Sharing stories, supporting creatives on the daily, I honor you for making this podcast a broadcast. For after which listening, we can all say, it is better that you have made me.
Oh my God, that is so cool. I have the biggest smile on my face right now. Wow. Thank you. That is awesome. I guess before we wrap up, what are you working on now? Like what's next for your journey?
Yeah, what's next for me is I'm doing live workshops, and I'm also building a program through my website with the 7 R's to awesome. Support people with like online program with their challenges with food and body. And the other thing that I am really excited about that is kind of my future goal is my intention is to create or be part of a television show that is it kind of brings to light these challenges, whether it's around body image, food. You know, we have a lot of weight loss shows that realistically get people to lose weight in an unsustainable way and actually can create more health problems for them. Although it's with good intentions of like, hey, we want to, you know, create healthier human beings. So I want to create a show that will create healthier human beings, but will follow them and give them guidance over a longer period of time. And whether that's someone who needs to lose weight, or maybe someone who's struggling with like an eating disorder, or maybe someone who looks quote unquote perfect, but has negative body image. So I think that would be really powerful to bring to light in this day and age.
I can 100% see that happening. That would be really valuable for society to have a look at our relationship with our bodies and food in that light on a much bigger stage. We have 2 questions that we ask all our guests at the end of every interview, and I can't believe I almost forgot to ask you these, because I'm probably more excited to hear your response to these than anybody in recent memory. So would you say that this journey or this path that you're on right now chose you, or would you say that you chose it?
Ooh, combo package. So short answer, for as long as I can remember, I've always said, I'm going to follow my heart. And I had an experience in high school where I lost someone very, very close to me. And it was that traumatic experience that I think at a young age, younger than a lot of people, having that light bulb go off of like, oh, like death could be around the corner. From that moment on, it's definitely been a journey of me where I'm like, where do I feel called to make a difference? Like one time my mom said to me, I don't know, I was talking about something and she was like, you don't have to be the one to change the world. And I was just like, yeah, but I want to. And as much as I've been the one making the decisions in a sense, or like following that intuition, it's like that intuition, I believe, comes from somewhere, comes from the universe, comes from my calling. My spoken word, I honestly, to me, that's a gift. There's no like reason why I should be able to create poems that the way that I do and how the words just come to me. That is like a God-given gift that is unexplainable. So to me, it's combo package, and I just have to keep listening.
I love that. And then if you could take all of your experience, all your pitfalls and mistakes, and all your victories and discoveries, if you could take all of that and condense that down into just one nugget of wisdom to pass on to somebody else, what would that one nugget of wisdom be?
Be who you are. Be who you are, and, learn to not be ashamed of that, not be scared of that, not be told that it's wrong, because whoever you are, any quirks and unique features and traits that you have were given to you for a purpose. So hiding them would be a disservice to the world.
Amen. If people want to find you and connect with you online, Tessie, where can they go?
Yeah, you can go to tessietracy.com. It's TESSIETRACY. And my social media, everything is just at Tessie Tracy. So mostly Instagram. On Twitter, I really just retweet, but you can connect with me there if you want. And Facebook is Tessie Tracy. And I have a page. My page is called Eating Into It, spelled INTUIT, if you want to come join the conversation there.
Very cool. We'll make sure to have links to all of that on our website. So anybody listening, head over to our website, check out the show notes to connect with Tessie online and all those various ways. Tessie, thank you so very much for taking the time to chat with us. This was absolutely awesome.
Thank you, Trevor.
Yeah, hey, welcome back, everyone. Tessie, you're awesome. A really cool way, we keep finding these like really interesting ways in to an actor's life, and this is a huge one. The body image thing alone is a huge conversation. So super grateful to have her on. Any debriefing Trev, that you'd like to do?
Not really. I think most of it was really said in the interview, and I think that there's a lot to sort of sit with and stew on after the fact, sort of on your own as somebody who's listened to this interview. So let's talk about picks of the week. What is your pick of the week? Well, I mean, I'm looking at it right now, but yeah, let's summarize this as briefly as we can.
I know. Well, we just did, right? We spent the whole first part of the podcast today talking about it. I knew I wanted to do something to kind of help people find something to do, and I might be doing this for the next few weeks. So I kept it as simple as possible this time. It's just one of the petitions to abolish the Electoral College, which, since 1888, I think it was the last time that the winner of the popular vote lost the Electoral College vote before 2000. And so now it's happened twice in the last 16 years. And it occurs because a lot of gerrymandering. And if you live in California, which is this, sort of beacon of hope to a lot of people, your vote counts for about 1/6 or 1/7 what some other people's votes count because of the way that the Electoral College works. If you take just the number of votes divided by the number of people. So, yes, it's supposed to be based on population, but clearly it's sort of failed us as a democratic republic over the last 16 years. So this is one. I couldn't find the We the People one for some reason. I don't know if somebody took it down or if it reached enough signatures, but go and sign that if you think that it's a ridiculous system. And if you don't think it's a ridiculous system, try explaining it to somebody who doesn't live in the United States.
Okay. All right. Well, my pick of the week is a website called Blinkist.com, Blinkist.com. And it's essentially a website that summarizes popular books, mostly nonfiction books. In fact, I think entirely nonfiction books. And not everything is on there, but they've got like almost 2,000 titles that you can basically read all the key takeaways and highlights from in about 15 minutes. And there's a few different levels. You can do a free level where they essentially choose a book for you and they make that a book available to you on a daily basis. So like every day there's a new book that you can sort of check out that they pick, or you can pay, I think, $40 or $70 to unlock varying levels of like diversity within that. So I actually bought a yearly membership for $40, and I can read as many of the Blinkist summaries as I'd like, but I cannot listen to the audio versions of those summaries. But I've really been enjoying it. I've got a couple books that I've been meaning to get through, like thick, dense books, like This Changes Everything by Naomi Klein, which is all about capitalism versus the climate. And that book is like incredibly dense with very long sentences that it's easy for your mind to sort of lose track of where you are in the argument. So I was like, shit, maybe I can find like a really sort of much more digestible summary of this book. And I did. And it's on Blinkist, and I was able to get the gist of her argument and her points and what's going on in that kind of context very, very quickly on Blinkist. So check it out, Blinkist.com. Disclaimer, the link on our website is an affiliate link. So if you decide to sign up for a yearly membership through the link on our website, we will get a few pennies towards the podcast. So it's a great way to support the podcast and get something cool that you might enjoy as well. So Blinkist.com is my pick of the week.
Okay, now before we move on, I have to do this, Trev. I have to do this. As a book nerd, do you feel like this is cheating? This sounds like Cliff Notes, dude. This sounds like Cliff Notes in high school and college.
It's exactly what it is. It is Cliff Notes. I do consider it cheating, and I don't, because there is a lot of value to be gleaned from just picking up a book and reading everything the author says, the way they meant to say it, in the order they meant to say it, in the context they meant to say it, with all these sort of supporting ideas. But then there are books that I frankly am just not going to read because they're so dense, and I just don't have the time or the patience or the mental capacity to handle the entire book. And so that's where something like this is a real blessing, because I can still expose my brain to those ideas with a lot less resistance. So yeah, I mean, there's a few titles in there where I'm like, I see it's available as a Blinkist, but I'd rather read the book. I want to get the full impact. I want to absorb the full sort of meal that the authors laid out. And then there's other ones where I'm like, thank God there's a Blinkist for this, because that book is 800 pages. You know, so yeah, and to be honest, there's a few Blinkists that I've read that I thought, I really liked that. I want to read the book. I want to see how much more there is to this, and so it's actually prompted me to add new books to my list. So yeah.
All right.
But I've really been enjoying it. Yeah, and like I said, each one will take you about 15 minutes to get through. So if you'd like to build a daily learning habit into your life that's more than a blog but less than a full-on book, Blinkist is a great way to do it.
Ooh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
More than a blog, but less than a book. I'm going to download they have an app, and I want to do that free, like, everyday thing.
It's pretty cool.
It's awesome.
It's pretty cool. And the recommendations are pretty awesome. There's a few books I didn't even know existed where they sent me an email and they're like, here's your daily Blinkist. And it's like some fascinating book by like Ray Kurzweil. And I'm like, oh my God. All right. Brain candy for today. So, yeah, I've been loving it. So that is a petition to abolish the Electoral College, as well as a link to feed your brain some goodness every day in 15-minute chunks at Blinkist.com. So check those out. Links to those are on our website. And that does it for episode 257 of Inside Acting, co-hosted and produced by yours truly and AJ Meyer. Jen Levin is our production coordinator. Gadali Gubarek is our marketing and web director. Deborah Smith is our community manager. Me, Trevor Algott, edited and mixed the episode today and composed the theme and interview music you heard, and Fern Lim designed our logo. Also, we are still looking for our next Director of Public Relations. So if you've been listening to the show and wanting to contribute in some way that's maybe a little bit more integral as part of the team, but giving us your money hasn't really quite felt like the right approach for any number of reasons, that's totally cool. This is a great opportunity to support us with about an hour a week of your time. Our Director of Public Relations is the person who basically manages our social media feeds and keeps our listeners informed about upcoming episodes and events via Facebook and occasionally like newsletter and outreach. But again, it's a pretty minimal commitment, but a great way to sort of connect with the community. So if that sounds like something that you'd enjoy, send us an email at support@insideacting.net.
You can sign up for said weekly email dispatch, you know, the one Trevor was just talking about, and listen to all of our episodes at our website, insideacting.net. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iTunes. Got through it all in one breath. Favorable review on iTunes goes a really long way because, you know, it helps other people find the show. It's kind of like putting a tip in our tip jar, like a tip of warm fuzzies. Is there such a thing as a tip of warm fuzzies? Yeah, it's weird. It's weird, right? Yeah, it sounds like we work in some seedy dive bar.
A little bit.
So just leave a favorable review, but not about what we're doing right now. Like, this is weird.
Agreed. Support from this episode comes from Rehearsal Pro and, as you know, VO2GoGo.com. These are the award-winning voiceover training system classes that I teach in Hollywood that you can also check out online. These classes have also won Backstage's Reader's Choice Award for Best Voiceover Training 4 years in a row. So it's good stuff as voted by your fellow actors. So visit vo2gogo.com/start and get access to a free Getting Started in Voiceover online class that'll help you add voiceover to your acting portfolio. If you want to learn what this is all about, vo2gogo.com/start is a great place to start. That's gogo.com/start. And this episode is also brought to you by you. Listeners like you. If you dig this thing and you want to maximize its value in your life and career and support its continued production, sign up as a member to get cool perks like access to our private member community, invites to exclusive member meetups, freebies, special bonus content, and a whole lot more. That's $7 a month. You can sign up by visiting insideacting.net and clicking on the membership tab, or you can make a one-time, no-strings-attached, tax-deductible donation. Just visit insideacting.net/contribute to do that.
And that is it for episode 257 of Inside Acting, the post-election episode, apparently. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week. In the meantime, love always. trumps hate.